Welcome to another awesome episode of Rub a Dub. I'm your host, Rob. I want to let you know I got 3 awesome stories to talk about today, and let's get right to it. Story number 1. In the great land of Victoria, BC, they have discovered a vaccine that may prevent HIV and has been given the green light by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to begin clinical trials for humans, according to the Canadian researchers. Scientists at the University of Western Ontario, that's in British Columbia, famously backed by the pharmaceutical venture company Samagen, developed the vaccine, which is based on the genetically modified killed whole virus. The vaccine stimulated a very strong immune response in the early testing phases and appears to have no adverse effects or side effects, according to the researchers. And we all know HIV has affected millions and millions of people across the earth. And there are people out there in this world that are literally dying for this to hit the shelf. It's pretty life-altering type news, and almost to give it the top honor of this year. I have to think about that. The vaccine SAV001 will now have undergo 3 phases of human clinical trials. Phase 1 begins early next year in January. Will actually involve 30 HIV people on whom safety will be tested. Phase 2. This phase is actually for the immune responses in humans, and it involves about 600 HIV negative people who are high risk of contracting the AIDS virus. Now, the 3rd phase, and probably the most crucial, this phase will determine the efficiency of the vaccine and will involve 6,000 HIV negative volunteers at high risk of contracting the virus. Now, this is literally possibly history in the making. This could very well be something I will tell my grandchildren about. Hopefully, knock on wood. Most importantly, though, this could possibly make HIV the thing of the past. It's hard for me to say this on December 21st, which is a Wednesday of the year 2011, that history could possibly be made in Victoria, BC. And HIV could be a thing. It could be like getting the flu shot once a year. In other words, it would be pretty gosh darn awesome. Story number 2. Now, we all hope that there is extraterrestrial life. Or at least I do. Now, scientists, according to the New York Times, scientists have actually found 2 Earth-sized planets. Now, these Earth-sized planets are orbiting a star outside the solar system, an encouraging sign for prospects of finding life elsewhere. This discovery shows that such planets exist and they can be detected by the Kepler spacecraft. Now, if anyone's like myself, never really heard of the Kepler spacecraft, and maybe thought Kepler was possibly a telescope, think again, my friend. Since it launched in 2009, NASA's planet hunting, Kepler telescope has found evidence of dozens of possible Earth-sized planets, let's just call that. The research ruled out a possible alternative explanation for the signals. They initially indicated the planets were orbiting the star Kepler, and the star is 950 light years away. Now, Earth is in the direction of the constellation Lyra. Now, this constellation consists of a grouping of planets. The planets, called Kepler 20e and Kepler 20f, probably the most unoriginal titles ever and pretty lackluster in sound. The planets called Kepler 20e and Kepler 20f are part of a 5-planet system around the star, and their location challenges current understanding of how planets form. In our own solar system, here on Earth, the small rocky planets are closer to the Sun, while gaseous and giants planets, the bigger, are on the outer periphery from the Sun. But the 5-planet system that they discovered has no such dividing line. Big and small planets alternate, and one moves away from the star. There's the really important part of this whole discovery, is that earlier this month, scientists said they have found a planet around another distant star with life-friendly surface temperature of about 72 degrees Fahrenheit, obviously 22 degrees Celsius for those at home. It was a big suggestion that life on the surface would be utterly impossible. At 2.4 times the size of the Earth, it could be more like a gas and liquid Neptune, with only rocky core and mostly oceans. Now, I don't know if you guys at home are about my age, late 20s, but you could possibly figure this out without sounding like a really old person, which I'm about to. There was a show called The Snorks. There was a movie called Waterworld. And quite frankly, I am really scared of what could possibly be in the bottom of like the Pacific Ocean, or possibly the Atlantic Ocean. I'm not saying a Loch Ness Monster, but I'm not ruling it out either. Story number three. Now, we all, quite possibly, know that there is a hell of a lot of politics being thrown around. And with the year dwindling down, it's just going to get ramped right back up in 2012. My final story of the day is basically my support, again, making it clearly known just how much the Rub-a-Dub Show supports Ron Paul. Yes, the Ron Paul, the greatest candidate since 1998. Ever since I saw him on that Morton Downey Jr. show, I swear to you, it was phenomenal from there on out. For about 23 years, he's been preaching the same old Ron Paul wisdom. The revolution will not be televised. It'll be on the internet. And I'll give it to you as much as I possibly can. If Ron Paul does get possibly nominated, winning a presidential election, any of the above, I'll give it to you. I'll provide you with the most awesomest coverage of maybe Ron Paul getting the candidacy. A lot of people say that he doesn't have enough money. We'll see about that. It doesn't really look like there's a lot to choose from. And maybe it won't depend on what's in your wallet, but what's actually coming out of your mouth. And if you don't believe me, check out it on YouTube. It was Morton Downey Jr. versus Ron Paul in 1988. It's pretty awesome, actually. And he's all about legalizing drugs, not that I'm about that. And it's one of the greatest possible moments on daytime television in American history. But as always, that's all for you knuckleheads. I gotta go. And as always, you've been doing it with the best. Keep on rocking in the free world. At least while it's still free.